whole year's worth of food is planted. We're growing absolutely tons this year, from storage onions all the way through to raspberries and even more. And we're going to show you a true look of the troubles that we're having in the allotment and some of the success stories that we have along the way. If you want to see a realistic look of how to grow a year's worth of food, this is the video for you. We're growing an absolute ton of potatoes, 27 rows of 7 foot, which will yield roughly about 188 kilos of potatoes, which will last us, roughly speaking, about 11 months. We're growing first early, second early and main crops. Later we'll do a late main crop. First earlies are things like rocket. We planted those in March. They're the first potatoes that's going to be harvested for the year, but they have limited long-term storage. The issue with them is that they're quite small, so they lose moisture really quickly and they're very thin-skinned. So when they are harvested, we are going to eat them as soon as possible because that's the way that they taste the best. Second earlies, we planted about early April, and these potatoes are slightly larger, things like Charlotte. They also have a slightly thicker skin, so they store a little bit longer, about 2 to 3 months. They are harvested a little bit later, between July and August. They're not really suited to long-term storage, so when we pull those up, we'll probably have smashed through our first earlies and start on our second early potatoes. They will store a little bit longer, and you do cure those. Main crop potatoes will be harvestable about August to October, depending on when you planted them. We planted ours at the beginning of May. They're your russet potatoes. They have a high starch content and are perfect for storage. They can store for 4 to 6 months in the correct conditions after being cured, which means just let out and dried, which will last us, roughly speaking, about 11 months. The way that we're going to store them, and I'm going to go over and do a whole entire video later on in the season about storage, we'll store our potatoes for about 6 months. So we do need to stagger out our potato sowings so that we maximise our yield over time. This bed here is probably our biggest failure this year, and I actually have no idea why. I've grown cucumbers now for something like 9 years, and I've never had this happen. So if you know what I've done, then let me know. But I took my cucumbers out and I hardened them off, and they were beautiful, really green and vibrant and beautiful. I planted them out the same way I've always planted them out, and they literally just died. Half of them have disappeared, no idea why. And if that was just it, I'd be like, well, I've made a fundamental mistake, it's all on me. However, the entire tray that I brought here and then brought home, every single one of them died. It's the weirdest thing, and I have 1, maybe 2 cucumbers left out of this whole bed. I have resown them. I'm going to plant them out again, but it's just the weirdest thing. I've never had something like that happen. So if you know what I've done wrong, let me know. The other squashes that I had in the same tray have been absolutely fine. My second biggest issue is rabbits are just walking sideways through this netted material. This metal is just not at all helping because there's gaps for them to get through. I'm going to come through and I'm going to fence this off with some of my welded mesh left over from my old duck coop here. Nothing goes to waste. Try to reuse and replace and recycle, upcycle as much as possible, because I really do think that gardening should be cheap, easy and available for everyone. So the next thing we're going to look at is all of our brassicas. We're going 4 beds of brassicas and all different types: broccoli, cabbages, Brussels sprout and cauliflower. Brassicas last for about 2 to 3 weeks in the fridge, but they freeze super well. The more that I grow, the better it will be, so I can go ahead and stick them in the freezer. We do like to grow in quite a lot, like a big bulk, so that we just store them once and move on. And some of these cabbages I've actually transferred from my garden at home. They looked very sorry for themselves when I moved them down, and it looks like they're picked up, but I don't know how well the cabbage harvest is going to be. This bed behind me is our peppers and chilli plants. We have 22 peppers in here and 11 chilies. We also have 5 pepper plants in the greenhouse. I'm mostly growing California Wonder and YOLO. I've also got a line of jalapenos. We started these peppers from seed in roughly about March, remember, because I lost all of my crops that I started earlier, and they're really going quite well. They are little plants and they're not as big as I would like them to be, but they are absolutely catching up. We started them off under grow lights and transferred them out last week. The key to growing peppers is they need quite a lot of light, between 16 to 18 hours a day. So we have them in full sun in our south-facing allotment, so it's going to be absolutely ideal. However, the ones in the greenhouse are going to do even better because they have the added heat of being protected from the cold nights, etc. To keep them even better, you do need to provide them to about 1 to 2 inches of water a week, and you want to keep the watering very consistent, or you get the corking or the cracking on the peppers. I actually love that, and I think it's something that looks really pretty, but some people like to avoid it. Before I planted these out, any of them that I saw that had flowers on, I went ahead and picked them flowers off to make sure that all of their energy is being concentrated onto the root system and not wasting anything on flowering right now, because we've got all season for them to flower. How many peppers are you growing this year? Let me know down below. I've also done 2 rows of parsnips here, which you can't see yet. They're very, very tiny. I need to go through and thin them. They're just poking up their way through the soil. This is 2 11-foot rows. Now, I'm the only person that eats parsnips apart from Andrew, so this is going to last me a pretty decent while. As soon as the cold weather comes, I just love root vegetables. It's just, talking of which, this bed here is my artichokes. I planted 2 lines of them. I might as well not have resowned it. As I said when I was doing this is like a crazy plant that grows everywhere and has a massive yield every year. And it's one of the ones that you set it and forget it until the winter, when this is one of the most valuable and worthwhile crops that I actually grow. But they are a real survival food. So if you are looking to grow a year's worth of food, artichoke has to be on your list, because I swear I get more food out of this little bit than my potato plants. They are very heavy yielding. This is our rhubarb. Got 3 rhubarbs here on the allotment. This is a variety that we actually inherited, and it's called Victoria. Victoria is very good at bolting. So the downside about that is that when you get bolted heads, and I'm getting loads of them this year because I should have divided it, I just didn't, then you don't get as much as a harvest. So we do need to figure this out. Next year I am going to dig this up and I am going to split it. You can tell it needs to be divided because you keep getting flower heads on it. This is one of 2 garlic beds that we've got. We're growing about 100 cloves of garlic this year, which is actually less than we've ever grown. It is very difficult to grow garlic here because rust is a fungal disease that affects the leaves and turns them a rusty colour. And the issue with that is it drops photosynthesis. That's how plants make food, and it reduces your overall yield significantly. We were getting garlics, like tiny little garlics like this big, which is just no good for us, and we could save them for seed. And every year our seed garlic was getting smaller and smaller and smaller until the only one that we could really plant out was elephant garlic, because it's not really affected by rust. That's why we've swapped to going for elephant garlic. Now, this bed is an experimental bed. It is a tilled bed that we've done. We're putting sweet potatoes in them. Now, sweet potatoes is one of them things that I've tried before and it was absolutely terrible. I think I got like 2 potatoes or something like that, and they were really, really kind of small, really difficult to dig out, etc. But this year's so warm and I was so tempted and I just did it. We're growing 11 plants, so it should be a decent amount of harvest. Now, I know that some of you have commented on my last video and said that you've had an absolutely triumphant experience with sweet potatoes, which is super cool, and it's like put up my high hopes. But I'm not really going to calculate too much of weight of this into my overall yield, on the basis that I do strongly think that this is more of an experiment and a fun possibility to get sweet potatoes. I grew all of these slips myself from sweet potatoes I actually bought at Costco's. All I did was go ahead and put them in a container, semi-covered in soil, and they sprouted like nobody's business. Had them under the grow lights. So I'm maybe wasting this much room. We've also got our trees here, and I'm really excited about them because I think I might be getting peaches this year. This tree has a significant issue with something called leaf curl, and I know I should cover it, and I tried to cover it this year, but it's so much taller than I am, I could not reach it. I've done a better job this year at pruning it, and I think I just need to prune it even more next year to get that circulation in there as well, and perhaps even move it into a more sheltered position. I'm also growing a ton of different flowers, and I find them really beneficial. The flowers just speak to my soul. As I'm getting older, I'm finding that I'm enjoying being around flowers more. Never had that when I was younger. They also massively help the overall yield. So all of the bees and the birds and stuff are attracted to the flowers. David Attenborough says if you give them the habitat, they will come. So give bees and spiders and insects the habitat that they need and they will come. And it isn't just bees that pollinate, it's spiders, it's flies, it's all sorts of different insects. Not only does it boost your overall crop pollination, so that can even boost it by up to 25%. It also reduces pest pressure. because you get things like parasitic wasps coming for the flowers, you will have a absolute drop in overall pests, which will damage your crops. So are you growing flowers in the garden? Are you just doing it for beauty, or are you doing it to maximize your overall yield and remove those pests? Let me know down below. This is another really exciting experimental bed, and I have to say thank you, because I said last time, I actually have no idea when it comes to growing ground cherries. This is my ground cherry bed. I'm growing 11 ground cherries here, and I'm not too sure what they taste like, what to do with them, or anything like that. And in our planting out video, last video, I kind of explained that, and you guys came, and you were geniuses. You all came with all your advice and your experience, not only growing ground cherries here, but all the way around the world. It was incredible. So I feel way more confident in what I'm meant to be doing. And basically, as they grow, they drop onto the floor in their little husks, and that's why they're called ground cherries. These ground cherries are going to be quite big plants and quite tall. Apparently they do taste like pineapple, so I've got high hope. If you have any ideas of how you love to use ground cherries, please let me know, because I'm going to be having, well, 11 plants worth, and I don't know how much that's going to yield. Like I said, I've never grown these before. This is my tomato area. I'm actually growing, I think it's 95 tomatoes here, but overall I think we've got way more than that. We've got 4 over there, and I think we've got 7 at home. The tomatoes I'm growing at home are so excited. I literally cannot wait to get home to show you what we're growing at home. It's something that I've never seen before, and I've grown hundreds of varieties of tomato. But here we have from cherry tomatoes all the way to huge beefsteak to saucing tomatoes, you name it. We grow so many tomatoes because we're completely, utterly self-sufficient in all tomato products, from barbecue sauce all the way down to tomato powder. After all of these years of growing tomatoes, my biggest tip would be to space your tomatoes. You can grow tomatoes 1 foot apart, but what I find is if I grow them 1 foot apart, then I am so likely to get blight. A blight infestation can lose up to 50% to 100% of your overall yield. So what I do is I space them out extra wide, between 2 to 3 foot minimum apart. I trellis them upwards, which reduces the amount of blight significantly. But yes, hopefully we're going to have a fantastic yield this year. We'll be able to do a lot of canning. What do you use your tomatoes for? Do you only use them for fresh eating? Or, like me, do you do a lot of canning? Let me know down below. This is my strawberry patch behind me. It's gone mental. And I did go ahead and strip out my strawberry patch at home and place them out so it's all nice and neat. And I did and ah about doing it here at the allotment too. But now I can see how many flowers and strawberries are available here. I'm so glad that I didn't do both at the same time, because I'm so nervous about the reduction in our overall yield. We normally yield about 11 kilos of storing. We eat as many strawberries until we're physically sick of them, and then we go ahead and store them for winter. So we make jam, we make strawberry pie filling. So I'm super glad that I've got so many here. And we are doing something interesting this year. We decided to 3D print some decoy strawberries this year. And the idea is the strawberries will be pecked on by the birds, and the birds will lose interest in anything red in the strawberry beds, because they'll learn to associate the strawberry colour with those plastic strawberries. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that works. This side of the allotment desperately needs to be weeded. I need to get down there on my hands and knees and pull up all the weeds. I've hoed between the lines, but to be honest, they just need a good weeding. I'm growing behind me 600 onions, and to be honest, onions are absolutely useless when it comes to competing for space with weeds. They don't have enough space, they don't get as big. These are all storing onions. Sowed our onions on Boxing Day, and we've been growing them in the greenhouse until they were little plants, and then we planted them out. Planted them about 6 inches apart to make sure that they have an absolute massive space to grow really big. We want big storing onions. The bigger the onion is, the better they store significantly. This will make them much bigger, healthier plants and less likely to bolt. So fingers crossed, because it's been an absolute gamble and I haven't done any sets this year. They grow really well. But we did 300 onions last year and it just wasn't half as much as we needed. It's a bit of trial and error when it comes to growing your own food. When you read online, you're looking and saying, oh, people say you only need 12 garlics for a year. That just wouldn't even last at all very long in my house. So this is one of 3 beds of raspberries that we get, and once again I just need to come through and de-bindweed this. I have such terrible bindweed in this bed, it's absolutely awful. But de-bindweeding a spiky bed is probably one of my least favourite things to do, but it is one of my jobs that I'm going to do today. And I think I just need to kind of knuckle down and remove all the weeds, just one bed at a time. And what I'll do is if I come down here and I do 1 bed every time I come down, within a few days, this whole entire area will be completely de-weeded. Now that we're back from the allotment and Andrew's down for his nap, I thought I'd show you the home garden. This is an area of land that we've used for years, even before we had our allotment, to grow basic essentials. I grow a lot of things here that just don't grow very well down the allotment. So things like corn, things like beans, and also tomatoes. You know, I have a little obsession with tomatoes. Tomatoes I'm growing here are incredibly special, and I'm really kind of excited to show you what they are. But first, I thought I'd show you my 3 sisters garden. So the 3 sisters are looking absolutely fantastic. We've got our sweet corn, we've got beans, and we've got tiny little squash just pushing up through the ground. This is a really cool sort of structure to boost the yield of a small space. We're doing popcorn, sweet corn, beans, and we're doing several different types of winter squash. The sweet corn produces a support for the beans, and the beans actually fix nitrogen from the air. So they have a symbiotic relationship, meaning that each of the elements of the 3 sisters help each other out. Based on historical data and some scientific evidence, it actually yields more food than if you just grow corn. It also reduces things like soil erosion, etc., because so much of the ground is actively growing. In terms of spacing, I've spaced out the corn 1 foot apart. You want it to be nice and close because the corn actually pollinates through wind, so you do want it to be quite close together so those pollen grains can fall onto the silks. And the beans, I've planted 2 bean plants per corn. I'll go ahead and thin them, meaning I'm going to pull out 1 bean plant per plant. In terms of winter squash, I have them 4 foot apart along the roads. Tomatoes are super exciting. I'm actually growing a type of tomato I've never even heard of before, and they're keeper tomatoes, which are storing tomatoes. You store them at room temperature, and if you harvest them late in the season, they can store all the way until February. I'm super excited to sample this as part of my attempt to grow a year's worth of food, especially in the winter, because if you haven't had a fresh tomato in the winter, like, you really start craving them. So that's why I've grown a whole row of tomatoes here. I'm really hoping that they're going to be a really good investment, and if they are, next year I'm going to grow even more of them. If you like this video, I've picked this one out just for you. It's all about growing a year's worth of food with perennials, and I'll see you there.